Hello everyone, it is Coyote Bunko 5 here, and it has been a long time. So I at this point I thought I thought I was done with War Thunder. I thought I was done with this game, with making, well, not so much the game, but making YouTube videos on it. I haven't been playing it near enough to justify that. However, in light of recent events in the War Thunder community and how Gaijin has been handling things, and my own personal view of what the game should be in the future, I felt the need to make this video. So, the current state of top tier jets is fine, I guess. I play it quite a bit. I enjoy screwing around with my F4 Phantom and my MiG 21 MF that doesn't have missiles because I don't care enough, and so I kind of suffer with that. But it's a MiG 21. It's enjoyable, right? But no. So what inspired me to make this video right now is the Scottish Koala. He made a video. I forget the title because I didn't read it. I just saw it and I was like, oh, Scottish Koala? I guess I'll watch it. And he made a lot of really good points. His personal view of the future of high tier jets past 9.7 is 128 kilometer, 128 kilometer square maps. And I agree that the maps need to be larger. I agree the teams need to be smaller for that size. Um, However, there are a lot. I think there's a lot more to that, gameplay wise, to these fantastic, more modern jets, and that would be a very good temporary solution, I believe. But I don't know if it's just because I'm coming into this as a DCS player a lot recently, or rather just a lot, even not even recently, but for the past year, 2 years. Uh, I think that the future of high tier jets is enduring confrontation, and I want to talk about that. So with these modern jets, yeah, you have interceptors like the English Electric Lightning, and you have things like the MiG 21 or the Mirage 2000, but you also have a lot of multi roles, stuff like the Phantom, the Jaguar. Those are both very good examples of multi role aircraft. And I think that is a really big piece of modern air combat is that multi-role capability. I mean, it's rare nowadays to see an aircraft in a combat situation where it doesn't have some sort of air to ground ordnance on it. It is the primary part of what these aircraft do nowadays. There's not like a giant air to air fight always happening. And I think that's a really big piece that War Thunder is missing right now. It's just you take off from your airfield, you fly in a direction, and you shoot down as much as you can. And that would be definitely improved by making these quick matches at a much larger scale map wise, but having less players, so it's a lot more skill based. But I don't think that is what I would want to see. It may be what some people want to see. I would definitely like people to discuss this in the comments down below. I would like to hear everyone's opinions, but my perfect view is that you grab your F4 Phantom, you load into War Thunder, right? You load into this enduring confrontation, and you have this large region, let's say, I don't know, 500, 600 square kilometers. Maybe less, maybe more. I haven't, this isn't really a fleshed out idea, I guess. But you spawn on the carrier, the super carriers that they added, and you hook up on the cat. You launch off. You've got some bombs, some sparrows, some stuff like that, and you form up with your buddy. And you go, well, let's see what we're gonna do today. Let's see what the missions are. So we got some bombers over this direction, but it looks like the cap, these mirages are handling that. Let's see. There is a oh, there's some tanks. There's a tank column this way. So let's fly over that way. Let's go bomb out those tanks. Let's say that maybe be a 100-kilometer journey. So that's maybe like a 5-10 minute flight. Maybe more, maybe less. You go bomb out those tanks, and then you maybe go help those Mirages, who perhaps run into some MiG-21s. And not only does this enduring confrontation work a lot better from a point of view of the aircraft that we currently have, like these Phantoms, Mirages, Jaguars, MiG-21s, Electric Lightnings, but it also works a lot better for more modern aircraft. Because you know what? I know it, everyone knows it. There's going to be more modern aircraft. I would be incredibly surprised if by the year 2022, 2023, we do not have an F-14 Tomcat. And the F-14, it is a very, very fast, very, very fast flying on mil power. That means maximum power without the afterburner. You can take off, you can climb into an incredibly high altitude, incredibly fast, kick off the burner, and just cruise around at Mach point, what, like 0.9? 0.95? And that gets even more accentuated when you get to stuff like Vipers, where you can very nearly super cruise with it. And with these aircraft, you have to have that space. The range on a Phoenix is over 100 kilometers. And I can almost guarantee that we're not going to have the Phoenix when the F-14 is first introduced, but I would also be surprised if we don't have that at some point. Just like how we had the Phantom for a while without the Sparrows, and it was fine, but the Sparrows are there now. Yeah, with these more modern aircraft and Phoenixes and multi-role capability, I think enduring confrontation is really the future of high-tier jets. And so it just makes sense because you have all these different aircraft and they're not all designed to fill the same roles. An F-4 Phantom, in its most effective use case, is a very, very different aircraft from a MiG-21. A MiG-21 is a dedicated interceptor, an aircraft that you have a GCI, ground control intercept officer, directing these aircraft in to intercept people. And that's what the MiG-21 should be primarily doing in, like, say, the MiG-21 BIS variant. While you have Phantoms, which, while they can do very long-range effective combat, they're also incredibly good ground attackers. They have this massive bomb load. They have bullpups. They have these great air-to-ground weapons that you just cannot use in, air RB in the current state. Sure, you can use them in ground RB, but you'd be kidding me if you said that taking, the full bomb loadout was an effective strategy in top-tier ground RB. You're just going to get slaughtered by a Tunguska or something. It's not an effective strategy. And so this idea would make it substantially better for multi-roles. It would make it better from a sort of slower paced perspective. It's not you just run in with your giant high speed Mach 2.3 interceptor and you get into a dogfight with a MiG-21. It would be an actually relatively realistic situation where you could put in a variety of different aircraft. It would be better for Harriers. You could have FARPs up further, closer to the objectives, where they could vertically take off and land, so they don't have as high of a travel time as other aircraft. Because right now, frankly, the VTOL on the Harrier is useless. It has no use outside of maybe Tank RB, where it can land at the FARPs. Because the Harrier is a very fast aircraft, at least fast accelerating. You can very easily reach 1,000, 1,100 kilometers an hour within, I don't know, I haven't timed it. I don't fly the Harrier. I don't have a Harrier. But you can get to that very, very fast. And so that's not a really substantial difference. That's what, like 5-6 kilometers difference? That's not big. And it would introduce purpose to the design choices that the engineers put into these aircraft and spent years designing and really making these aircraft perfect suited for the roles that they take. And I think that is something that we are very, very, very much missing in War Thunder right now. I think that the current ARB design is wonderful, wonderful for lower tier fighter aircraft that use props. You kind of have a chance to do things with those aircraft because with the attackers you spawn closer up and you're able to ground pound a little bit. People are a lot slower, so you can kind of get off to the sides and you can ground pound over on the edges of the map or kind of let the fighters fight up at the top because they don't want to lose their altitude, of course. But then you have top tier where everything is capable of both roles mostly. And so you can't really distinguish them besides maybe having different spawn points for the for when you take bombs or whatever. But I don't think that's a good solution in the slightest. Uh, and then I want to move on to another topic that the Scottish Koala brought up, which was stock missiles. I believe that stock missiles is also an incredibly important thing to talk about because without our pressure, I don't think Gaijin will do it ever. It is not something that is a viable, business move for them because I'm sure there's hundreds or thousands of people at top tier who have purchased Golden Eagles so that they can get missiles much faster because missiles make it, frankly, a hell of a lot easier to get kills in top tier. And so, and that makes sense because that F4 Phantom and onwards, that is the primary weapon of these aircraft. I mean, we have the F4C in game, and when you unlock your F4C, you have a M61 cannon mounted under the nose, under the belly, and that doesn't make much sense at all because the F4 Phantom, when it was introduced, it used missiles only. It did not have a cannon. That cannon was an afterthought by the ground crew and the airmen who decided that we're not dealing with these crappy missiles. We have to have something better. We have to have something that can work in a dogfight when these missiles are succumb to G loads that they just can't launch under, or when they just fail because they're the first missiles. So, and this is even more prominent at when you start getting into late 70s, 80s aircraft, when you have Fox 1 and Fox 3 missiles, stuff like R-27 ERs, AMRAAMs, AIM-120Bs, R-77s eventually. These are missiles that you cannot fight without having your own missiles. You actually cannot fight them. An AIM-120B has a range of... I'm going to switch over to miles here because this is what I know them in. You can shoot that missile from 30 or 40 miles given the right conditions. And it has its own seeker head. And it's fired by aircraft that have radars that are not affected by ground clutter. So you could have an F-15 up at high altitude, let's say 40,000 feet, going Mach 1, launching this AMRAAM at you, you have no missiles, your stock aircraft, and this AMRAAM comes down from on top of you. It's not affected by the ground clutter. It guides itself in even after the F-15 has moved on to another target, and it splashes you. You don't have chaff because that's an upgrade. You don't have flares. That's an upgrade. You don't have a radar warning receiver because that's an upgrade. You don't have these things that are essential to modern air combat. And I think that's something that we really need to start including these things stock with. I think that we need to have some sort of... Maybe we don't need Fox 3 missiles necessarily. I think we could probably get away with, at least for the multi-role aircraft, having them run with bombs, perhaps, or limited to Sidewinders. For the start, as long as they receive stock RWR and stock countermeasures. And even then, that's a slight stretch. I think they should at least have some sort of, perhaps Fox 1, like old AIM-7, or something, so they can at least try to compete at longer ranges in air combat. I think that's most of what I wanted to cover. This is kind of just like... I just got off school, I was just hanging around watching YouTube, and I was like, this is something that really, really I don't know, this is something I'm interested in. This is something I need to talk about because I want to see, as much as I make jokes about War Thunder to my friends, as much as I think it's a very flawed game, I want to see it succeed because it holds a very unique place in its gameplay, a very unique place that cannot be, uh, that DCS doesn't fill, that Ace Combat 7 doesn't fill. I love those games, but if I just want to sit down and I want to do some missions in an F4, Ace Combat 7 doesn't really do that for me. I'm just dogfighting around, just splashing people with aim 9Xs practically. Or DCS doesn't fill that because, they don't have an F4, and even if they did, that would be like an hour or two dedication, which I'm fine with doing, just not always. Yeah, that is why I care about War Thunder, and that is why I want it to succeed. And these are the things that I think would really help it at top tier. Not to mention, this would also decrease the need for battle rating decompression, because even older aircraft have a role in these enduring confrontation missions where there is not purely air to air, like one on one fights, where it is down to not so much the skill, but even just the performance of your aircraft, where lower tier aircraft will always lose. I think it just makes it a lot easier. I think it would be relatively easy to implement, besides the fact of needing to make a large and well designed map. Of course, the rendering distance of War Thunder will also need to be much larger. The servers will need to be upgraded because 35 kilometers is frankly just not enough for even what we have right now. Especially because, like I said, the range of an AMRAAM is like 40 miles with AIM 120B. That's beyond the render distance, so you actually cannot use it in its full potential. But yeah, I think that's about all I wanted to talk about. I would uh, I'm happy you made it to the end. If you did, um, you don't have to subscribe or like or anything. Like if you do like it though, this would be a great message to spread, I think. But I don't know how alive this channel is going to be in the future. Yeah, I hope you thought my opinion was interesting. Please discuss it in the comments. Yeah. See ya.